I got tired of being on the brunt end of jokes. So which leads me to how I actually, took the step of getting my hair replaced, because initially I went with the non-surgical approach of restoring my hair. And so how I got involved in that was, there was a good friend, his name is Michael Gunderson. He's actually the hairstylist to Mark Rosen, and that was one way of how I met Mark Rosen. I helped Mark Rosen of WCCO Channel 4 get his hair back, which that's a story in itself that I'll save that for a little bit and tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. But anyway, he knew this one guy, and he said, Vern, you got to talk to this one guy about incorporating hair replacement services within your business. So anyway, I went to him, this Richard Gizzy guy, by myself, and he explained to me, how it's done and the training involved. And I thought, wow, that sounds like something that I really should incorporate. And that all sounded good until he said, but you're going to have to do it yourself. And this guy, he was a talker, let me just say that. And we talked for, what probably seemed like an hour and a half, probably wasn't, probably more like a good hour. And he was trying to convince me why I needed to incorporate doing hair replacement, within my salon business. But I thought, what, I just couldn't see myself wearing one of those things, one of those hair pieces or hair systems or whatever they were calling them back then. And but he said, he had a very good point. He says, well, Vern, how can you recommend something and have the conviction that it's going to look good and be life-changing when you aren't even wearing it yourself? And I went, well, that kind of made sense. That would be like going to being an overweight person, wanting to lose weight, and you get introduced to your consultant, and that person is very overweight. So that made sense to me, and I thought, well, all right, well, if I ever thought of doing that, at least let me see what one of these things look like before I make that decision. And he looked at me and he said, Vern, you've been looking at it for the last hour and a half, whatever it was. And I went, well, like, what do you mean? And he said, well, I have one. And I went, like, where? You have one where? And he goes, it's on the whole top of my head. And so you're bald? And he goes, yeah. And you got to remember, this was back in like the early 80s, and I'm in the hairstyling business, losing my hair, and I couldn't tell. And that was the kicker for me. I went, okay, size me up. I'm ready. I'm ready and willing to get involved. So before I learned how to do it, I had to go through this journey of having my hair replaced myself. So I remember vividly going, and it took a while. He had to make this mold of the top of my head. He took hair samples. But the day of, the experience of the day of, and this is the crux of, what I want to communicate in this little video here is, it's a big deal that day. And the service providers that I have, the licensed cosmetologists that I use currently that are certified to do hair replacement, and I tell this to them all the time, that that day when that client comes in to have their makeover done, it is a huge day. I mean, when I look back at that day, I'd probably have to put it in the top 10, maybe top 5, but for sure top 10 defining moments of my life. And oh my goodness, just the feeling of having hair on my forehead. This thing was really long for like the first 10 minutes, and they didn't really prepare me for that, which I do now. When we put hair on people, I tell them, hey, the first 10 minutes or so is going to look a little silly, but you'll see it evolve. But it was just weird to see and feel hair on my forehead. It was probably like 6 inches long, and they had to cut it, to blend in with the sides of my hair. And but I saw it evolve, and it was just, I don't know, it just to see hair. And I have to be honest, it took me a little while to get used to having hair all of a sudden. The very thing that I didn't like, that being losing my hair, and then like getting my hair back. I mean, it was like overnight, kind of an overnight experience. I went for it. I didn't do a little bit of hair. I wanted to look my age. I wanted to look like I was 23, 24 years old.